Lynn's go at it. Okay. And I needed the structure because that's what Norman said, these bits have got to be in it. So I put those as the structure. The project was around goal 3, ensure healthy and promote well-being for all at all ages. And so just to refresh, it was about people of my age. That's very old. And also goal 12, ensuring sustainable consumption. So in principle, it was the fast thing, having fewer meals. Basically, it was not conforming. I think that's what it was. I just didn't want to conform to what was expected. Okay. But to use what I saved to the benefit of other. So motivation. I found this and I thought this is interesting. I won't read through it. I'll just allow you to read through it. But it comes from a book on the Japanese ikigai. And I think all of those things come in with it. But particularly for me, it was a couple of things jumped out as number 3 and number 5 as having the most significance. But also 9 and 10 are very important. So smile and be grateful. Okay. And then I thought motivation goes a lot further. So I wanted to bring this back because everybody has heard of Maslow's hierarchy. They mostly say of needs, but it's not. And I actually have read this. And in his work, he actually puts a percentage on as an approximation. It wasn't done scientifically, it was guesswork on his part. So, but importantly, people get the illusion that they have to be 100% having these needs satisfied, and they don't. So these are Maslow's own, and there is a big problem with it, and lots of people have recognized that. So I then thought of Erickson, because I like Erickson's work, which is a bit Piagetian in terms of the age-related. And then I looked at the stages and basic conflicts. So I now recognize that I am probably being, I should sum up the Shakespearean thoughts on the 7 stages of man. I'm now in my second infancy because I think I can run through all of these under the basic conflict as during the project, these things have affected me. If you look through the second column, you'll see there. So I just thought it was quite interesting. But what Erickson said, and again, it's a direct quote, that this is not written, it's not the 10 Commandments. It's just a tool to think with rather than a factual analysis. And I think it's important that we remember that when we're doing these things. And we can be all of these bits all at once. And then McClellan that I mentioned previously, I think is one of the earlier meetings. McClellan came up with need for achievement, need for power, and need for affiliation. And he did it in terms of management, and that's an area I know a little bit about. And I think all of us have those as well. So they're wrapped up in all of us for different times and different parts. Need to achieve something. For me, it was needing to have control over me. Authority and power, maybe that's there, I don't know. I don't think I'm seeking to increase my status or prestige. but the need for affiliation. That's why I'm here tonight, because actually it's important to have feedback from others too, as well as feeling part of something. I am vegetarian. I eat no meat, and that was reinforced by this I saw as we were going, since it happened to me during this time. This is about from the Cancer Research Institute. It's a really powerful piece to suggest that the evidence of not eating meat is so very strong. And where I live in the Czech Republic, they eat so much meat every day, red meat particularly. I just leave that there to carry on. So some of the challenges, that was the next bit. I love this quote from Oscar Wilde. Yeah. I love most of his work, actually, but this particular one seemed relevant. And I was sitting having a coffee and something to eat in a supermarket, and I looked and I saw all this like cornucopia there. Is it all necessary? And then I was in a service station off the motorway, and I saw this, and there's the temptation. But I've actually managed to resist both the cakes and the chocolate biscuits, which is hard. And the biggest challenge have been other people and their expectations. So, and just today, this morning, I was going through my emails, and there are 22 the 4th of July dessert recipes if I wanted them. And that was just one of the examples. So all of those is not only the temptations, but other people and their expectations. I have, and this is a confession, because it was a challenge, I have to confess that on 2 days, because I happen to be in the company of somebody who eats 3 times a day, and we were away from home, I was forced to eat 3 times a day. But to compensate for that, I fasted by having only 1 meal a day for 2 days. So that evened it out. This was a veggie breakfast I had in St Asaph in North Wales. Lovely place to go, St Asaph. It's not green, it's not got the lush green of Ireland, but not all the midges of Scotland. But that would set me up for the day. I don't have that every day. I don't. This morning was a croissant. That's it for the breakfast. I will eat later something. The Czech have a saying that basically beer is really liquid bread. So they do drink more beer than anyone else in Europe, possibly the world, but I don't know. And there's a nice article there. If you were to go onto that website, it tells you about it. It is quite close. So occasionally compensation for a meal could be a beer, but I try to avoid alcoholism. But to get inspiration, this is from my garden. So, and that's looking up at the tree. It's the best way, Dory, to see a tree is lying on the grass beneath. My art teacher told me that when I was about 14, and I never forgot it. He said, preferably with someone that you like as well. That was another story. And then I was inspired because water is essential for all of us. And I was on the ferry coming across from Calais to Dover, and I thought, wow. And you see the gulls there. I was high up on the ferry looking down on the water, and it's just a powerful image of nature, I thought. water is really important to me, and the sea is vitally important to me. I live 550 miles or 880 kilometers from the nearest sea, where I'm in Prague. So that's a long way to get to the sea. So this is, for me, heaven. This is Tenby, South Beach in South Wales. And a glorious day. It was the hottest day last week. That's looking across to Barry Island. I just thought that was a nice picture. So, and then I visited my daughter, who lives near Manchester, and we visited the Royal Horticultural Society. They've got a new garden there in Worsley. It's the biggest one they have. And the water was there, and it inspired me yet again. The left picture is a clearly constructed, rather nice garden. You want some inspiration for your garden, Dory. And the right-hand one contains a Japanese maple. You can see below the big tree, which is also my meditation tree. Not that particular one, the one I have in my garden. So I needed self-discipline and coffee. I think this is a wonderful picture. This is not from the Sistine Chapel, but it is Lavazza, I think. So what's my learning? The closer you look, this is my Japanese maple, the Acer palmatum. And I hadn't really looked very closely. Well, I did, but not with the intimacy that it required. There are 7 little leaves, and that's one for each day of the week. They're not all the same size, and I thought that's a hint for me not to consume. And you can do it like that and still survive and be beautiful.
We're running a bit tight for time, Glyn.
I'm running. Awe and wonder from my garden, these little white spiders and yellow spider, adaptation to the environment. So that's what I'm saying. Take a closer look. I visited in South Wales, Llangunnar, a graveyard, and there are plants there growing everywhere, in the roots of the trees, everywhere, little plants growing. And then at Larne, where Dylan Thomas wrote his wonderful works, again, brilliant combination here: water, sea, marsh. This is what I need occasionally, but essentially back to the water, the apple, a nice juicy apple. And then I looked, and it'll come to the learning, at what my charity might be to donate to. You can read that. And then my reflections, and this is towards almost the end. I am overawed by natural world and all it contains. Those little white spiders and the little yellow ones, how it adapted so it's almost invisible. Charities where funds are not lost. The water aid, the pictures I showed you about the water there, 74% goes to the actual doing, 26% goes to administration and paying charity. I just found that not acceptable. How easy it is to consume less and remain healthy, how important it is to vary diet and not have croissant every day, how many motivation theories there are, how precious food and water are, and how much tastier food is when it's savoured rather than just eaten because it's a meal. Really getting to savour the flavours. My daughter pushed me around on a wheelchair because I'm a mobility problem, big garden, and I could see more. And I was seeing almost things like the child. And then finally, how I missed the sea and the sea air. Everything is possible. in many languages. So it must be, the bottom one is impossible. Minden leheke széges, which is Hungarian, which is an impossible language to learn as an adult. The rest are not too problematic. And some references. That's it. That's me.
Well, thank you very much, Glyn. And what some lovely images you treated us to.
Yeah.
Any questions or thoughts from anybody? And hello, Eleanor, we saw you joined us. Lovely to see you. Any comments, or maybe I can say, Glyn, you seem incredibly positive and engaged this month, maybe even more so than last time when you were quite passionate about what you were doing, and now you seem to be getting a lot of rewards from what you're trying to do.
I think that the connecting with nature, and particularly since I am back in the UK where the air is so much clearer than on the continental landmass. But that may be, but I am passionate about it. And I think, although you may think Glyn's a bit of a case, that the case study I'm seeking to make is that if I can do it and remain healthy and able to sustain things, there's no reason why other people of my age and lack of mobility can't do it too, and therefore seek to enable other people in other parts of the world to do it, to gain from our stupidity.
Well, thank you. Norman.
Yeah, I took a lot from what you just said, Glyn. It was really interesting and very playful. But one of the things I really liked was this idea of seeing and how we might see things better in a way that inspires and motivates. So the idea of seeing the tree, I mean, I've been doing the same with flowers, because there's so much beauty and magnificence in tiny little flowers that unless you get into the scale of what it is you're seeing, you don't see them, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think probably that's, for me, that's a very powerful idea that we can probably apply to all our projects. Seeing things at the right scale and in the right way in order to appreciate them more fully.
Yeah, I think if you look a little closer with an open mind and open eyes, and hearing too, I cannot tell you how it tugged at my heartstrings to hear gulls crying again. That may not mean anything to you. You may not get emotional about a seagulls crying, but for me, this is a very powerful saying.
I appreciate it, Glyn. I took a Russian geologist who'd lived all his life in the Urals, never seen the sea, to my field area in Cornwall, on the cliffs at the Talent, and he wept. He quite openly wept.
Yeah. I took some Czech friends who similarly are locked in the land, and they had never seen a tide. They didn't, it was beyond their conception. And we know, as language teachers know, that if there is no concept, there's no word. So they don't have a word for the tide.
Wow, powerful thoughts for us to all take away. So thank you, Glyn.
I had a go at it.
Well, yes, you showed